Hey guys, Jason here with a new deck profile. Yes, we are back to our roots. We are starting to feature more physical cards on the channel. I know that's what you guys like. And Andrew and I have been hard at work in the background testing all of these new concepts so we can deliver all of these awesome, okay, at least we think they're awesome ideas to you. Now, Andrew and I are also reunited at last, and Andrew's going to be the one to highlight our new Liquid People Beatdown deck. You know, he is in many ways the mastermind behind the deck, and he's been schooling me with it. So Andrew, take it away.
Cool. So as you remember from our previous deck profile, this list, we kind of didn't really know what we wanted to do with the deck list in a way. We were kind of playing cards like Legendary Merfolk and Angler Cluster, which, you know, those are more control-y cards, whereas what we think that this deck should be is more of an aggressive approach. So we're going to start off with the Liquid People lineup. So we've got 4 copies of Aqua.
So 4 blockers, very aggressive.
It's a good start. What about this guy? He's new.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
So 2 copies of Aqua Vehicle. So Aqua Vehicle is a new addition. We found by playtesting quite a few games that having a 2-drop Liquid People is actually really important for this deck. Especially as later on you'll see that with Crystal Spinslicer, you really do need one of these guys out early on so that you can drop a Spinslicer on turn 3 or turn 2 even. Crystal Paladin is also a new addition to this deck. As you remember, previously we had Crystal Lancer, which unfortunately again, he's just a bit too slow. When you kind of at 6 mana, you don't really want to be spending your turn playing down a 6 mana double breaker that, you know, doesn't really affect the board all too much. 6 mana can easily be spent playing, say, like Aqua Vehicle plus Crystal Paladin, and that just does a lot more. And next we have our shield triggers. So we're running 4 copies of Aqua Surfer, and then also 4 copies of Sparrowgate. These are pretty staple in most water decks. And because we're running 8 trigs, although we're actually running a bit more than that, but you'll find out that later on, we're also running 4 copies of Emerald to cheat out your trigs. Also running 4 copies of Coral. Coral's another staple in most water decks. It's another card that I really despise.
It's just a card that's really difficult to play against, so we kind of thought we can't really afford to not play it.
Yeah.
In the games we have played it, it's just been difficult to play against. Like, you bounce a blocker, so you don't really need this guy, really. You can just keep the aggression going. And especially since Crystal Spinslicer can find Thrash Crawler a bit problematic, you know, Coral is very good at solving that problem, especially since Thrash Crawler sets your opponent back in mana, so are they really going to want to play it again after you've played Coral, considering we have these as well?
Yeah, Coral just makes the game so difficult for your opponent, and it's, you know, some cards you just really can't play with Coral around.
Yeah.
So finally, we have some new toys to play with. I'm sure for some of you, this guy will be pretty familiar to you. I run him a lot in my DM Plays decks. And he's Terradragon, Arque, Delacerna, or TDAD for short. I think it's one of the best acronyms that we've come up with. As you can see, he's when you discard him on your opponent's turn, instead of hitting the discard pile, he comes out on the field. And as you can see, he's a 6k power double breaker. So imagine your opponent plays out a Ghost Touch on turn 2, and unfortunately he hits one of these guys and he comes out on the field, and, you know, the game is pretty much over at that point.
Speaking from experience.
So not all that interactive, but imagine your opponent is, you know, quite smart and he knows you're playing one of these. Perhaps he see that you've charged one of these guys and he doesn't play his Ghost Touch, but later on he breaks into an Emergency Typhoon. And what Emergency Typhoon does is that you draw 2 cards, and then you also discard a card from your hand. And because it's still on your opponent's turn, you can discard Terradragon or T-Dad, and he hits the field again. And you can think of it as a shield trigger creature, really. When your opponent breaks with one of their creatures, you play him down, and then you can kill off that creature. So it's kind of like a, what do we call it? Synthetic
Terrafit, yes.
So that interaction is really, really neat. But just in general, the Emergency Typhoon actually runs really well in this deck, regardless. With our low-cost creatures, and also, Spinslicer, playing down one of these, and then getting into, or digging deep for your Spinslicers or your Liquid People bait is really good for this deck, especially when you're trying to really go in the early game. So I think that just about wraps it up for our Mono Water deck profile. I think we should really name this, because Jason doesn't think this is a Mono Water list anymore. with T-Dad here. So a better name might be Liquid People Beatdown. What do you think?
Yeah, Liquid People Beatdown is probably what we're going with. I mean, I see 36 blue cards and 4 green cards. I don't know, that doesn't seem like 100% water to me. But yeah, so I think Andrew tackled all of the key points in the deck, really. He's really good at doing the mind games with holding on to this or holding on to this. Sometimes I'll think he's holding on to this guy, but then it turns out that he had this guy and he was just waiting for one of these, and then he's ready to swing for game. So it's a really fun deck. You're pretty much doing something every turn. It's very aggressive. You're not really set back too much by missing your charges. So yeah, it's a really strong, fast, aggressive deck, and it's a lot of fun to play. So even though it's not the easiest thing in the world to make, if you have some of the cards, I definitely encourage you to try it out. But yeah, so as Andrew said, that wraps up today's video. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.